happy to have you here today. We have two dynamic speakers that will speak during this period of time. First of all, we're going to have Miss Sherri Talley, and I would like for Miss Marty Vian to come up and introduce Miss Talley.
Good morning. I was very happy when Dr. Kilcoyne asked me to introduce our next speaker. I first met Sherri when we were both moving in to the Natchitoches dorm on campus, which is now known as Dodd Hall. I knew then that Sherri would be very successful in everything that she did. While at Northwestern, Sherri served as news director for KNWD, our radio station. She was a member of the service organization, the Purple Jackets. We actually wore purple jackets, purple skirts, yes. And she was elected Miss NSU by her peers. Sherri graduated with a degree in business administration from Northwestern. After graduation, she worked here at Northwestern as director of enrollment. Over the years, she's held positions in marketing and public relations and has enjoyed more than a 30-year career, I hate to show our age, sorry, as an award-winning broadcast journalist. As a reporter and primary anchor for KTBS TV, Sherri also managed the station's social media and the news department's websites, which won a first-place Louisiana Associated Press Award. Sherri is currently the owner of Talley Media, LLC, a marketing company in Shreveport that specializes in social media management. We never even knew what that was back then. Professional photography and brand building for businesses. Sherri is married to Rufus Lemaire. She has a son, Casey Allen, who is an improv acting student at the Second City in Chicago. Do you get to go to Chicago? Yeah. Join me in welcoming Sherri Talley to our forum.
Thanks. Margaret, this is okay. It's not a big deal. Oh, it is. Oh, okay, great. I'll use it then.
Microphone on yours.
No, I forgot how to do this. Marty, thank you. It's so good to see you again. And one of the joys about being back on campus is the old faces that I get to see, and not old, I mean, you know. People I haven't seen in quite some time. Let me rephrase that. Thank you, Dr. Kilcoyne, for asking me to speak today. I really appreciate that. It's an honor. And if there are any of my instructors in business from way back when, you know, thank you for everything that you offered to me in the way of an education, especially my business writing instructors. What I learned there, I applied directly in the field of business and various careers that I've held. Yeah, I guess they have been careers after that long, and in journalism itself. It helped me immensely. I just want to thank NSU for an excellent education and an environment in which to learn. I loved my years here. A little too much. I think I spent an extra year changing majors, you know. And I really appreciate the Natchitoches business community for being willing to hire Northwestern students. I'm honored really to be here in the company of the other speakers and in the past speakers for the Walter J. Porter Forum. It's something I held in real high esteem when I was a business major here, and it's so nice to be able to catch up with the family, the Porter family here, and just express to them how much it meant for me to come and be inspired by other people speaking. I can't believe that I'm speaking now. I never thought that would happen, and I just really am honored. So thank you all. We're supposed to be talking about conducting business in the current economy, and so what I'm going to do is relate much of that to some things that have worked for me in broadcasting and reinventing myself over the years and staying current, and because those are things that I'm trying to do right now in building my business. So I do know that in this current economy that conducting business successfully requires taking calculated risks. Someone much more successful than I am in this business at this point is Debbie Fields, the founder of Mrs. Fields Cookies, and she said, the important thing is not to be afraid to take a chance. Remember, the greatest failure is to not try. Once you find something you love to do, be the best at doing it. I really believe that. I'm not a knocking on doors kind of person with my business. I should be. I could probably let it grow pretty quickly and do that. My main philosophy is I want to be so good at what I do and so valued that the business comes to me. That was the philosophy I had in broadcasting that seemed to work, and it seems to be working so far for me in business. The first job I ever held was that of a hotel maid in a little resort hotel in upstate New York. I was 13, rode my bike to work, loved to work, and I have loved it ever since. There was something about, even at the young age, a sense of accomplishment and moving forward to the next level that I liked. I've been doing that ever since. Love working in the business field. It's exciting. Broadcasting was exciting too, but this is more. So there's more uncertainty, I think, in taking risks and building. Back when I was a kid, it was a big deal to move on to something bigger from that northern town up there, little bitty town. But I was inspired by my father's work ethic. He just was a tremendous worker, and I'll just tell you, some of you, I don't know if you have any relatives in the Shreveport area, maybe you know of him. There's a building named after him. It's the Dan J. Talley Memorial building, which is now the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana. He was the first gambling addiction counselor in the state, but he was successful in the oil business, and then when that went bust, he just started all over again. So I kind of learned how to start over in a different field and reinvent myself, primarily from watching him and being inspired by that. When I was at Northwestern, I needed money, and so I called my mom, who was a former on-air personality at KWKH in Shreveport back in the day. And instead of sending money, she said, you might try radio. So I said, fine. And KNWD welcomed me as a newcomer in the 1970s. In the late 70s, and that's when I got my first mentor, a guy named Richard Fillet. He was actually an electronic board guy, but he taught me how to run the board, how to just take chances, do it. I didn't know how to broadcast. We had, I don't know how many watts it has now, but it went to Walmart back then, It was just 10 watts, I became news director there, which paid $50 a month and provided me with what I grew to learn were priceless experiences. Later, I realized that, I needed more money than $50 a month. So I went to KNOC and KDBH here in town, who hired me. That, combined with some other jobs, would net me enough to get by and pay for college. And I realized that was the beginning of a dream, but I also had to have plan B. Pete Abington and I were talking about that just a few minutes ago, and John Manno, who's coming up after me, and how plan B to me was essential. I always had more than one job and did that because I wasn't sure I would make it in broadcasting. So until I got a contract in broadcasting, I always worked, some business, PR, anything that I could do on the side, because that was kind of artsy and I wasn't sure if it was going to work for me or not. But so I always had PR, marketing, and so forth, management jobs, but I didn't wake up successful in broadcasting. In fact, at KNOC and KDBH, I was a DJ, and I think, in retrospect, not a very good one. I wanted to advance, so I wanted to get to where they would ask me to do commercials, to voice those. So I asked them, I said, please, can I voice a commercial? And they said, sure, you have enough DJ experience, come voice one. And I voiced it, and I was all excited, and I'd wait and listen to it on the radio, and tell people, hey, I did that, And then they got a call from the company that advertised, and they said, you ever let her voice another one of our spots, and we're pulling all of our ads. So at that point, you gotta have a thick skin, and at that point I could have walked away and said, okay, I don't have it. I just don't have it for this. But what I did instead, I don't know where I got this, but I went to the powers that be above me and I said, what did I do wrong? And how can I get better? And they told me, they said, you're trying to sound like somebody else. You're trying to sound like a radio announcer. Just be yourself, you know? That advice has taken me so far. Too many people in broadcasting, I think, try to be something else. Try to be, you know, and in business too, you know, just be authentic. Be transparent. Be who you are. So consequently, a number of things happened, but I'm just trying to condense the years for you. I'm blessed to have enjoyed a more than 30-year award-winning career in broadcast journalism, where I really feel the best about the impact I've had on several humanitarian levels, namely animal cruelty and adoption. It's nice to know you did a story that actually prompted government change, and that happened with some of my animal cruelty stories. And in the adoption, I profiled children and kind of created a brand for those stories that was in such high demand, and so many kids were getting placed. I'm not taking the credit. We have a very generous community that opens their hearts and homes in the Shreveport-Bossier area. But it was so successful, and the formula worked so well that the adoption, the foster care programs from other parts of the state would start coming up and bringing their kids up because their kids weren't getting adopted. And so anyway, those are the things I feel the best about in all of my 30 years of broadcasting. So let's get to the business of the changing business economy and ways to change along with it. When I was an anchor and a reporter in the 1980s, and I was like, oh, here she goes down the, these were the days. We had it so hard. But we did have IBM typewriters to type out our newscasts on scripts. When I was a DJ, we spun actual vinyl records. Those were pre-computer days, so everything was done by hand. When I was enrollment manager at Northwestern, we kept track of prospective students in handwritten index cards, and we called them on a telephone that was connected to the wall or on your desk. And so I've seen a lot of change, but I've also seen a lot of resistance to it over the years. And my advice to you would be embrace it, even if it's not comfortable. Go get it, tackle it before anybody else does. And I tell you that because I find that history so cool, because it's not like somebody like me who comes from that background to then go on to be one of the country's first new media journalism activists. And I went to the National Association of Broadcasters in Las Vegas right when social media was becoming the thing and broadcasting was becoming a part of it. And you know, people from all over the world, Al Jazeera Network, you know, they were all there, and we'd be in these big conference rooms and they'd say, okay, if your station has a Facebook page, raise your hand. And I was one of like 2. And so I was so proud to have led, you know, in that direction and taken the chance to back off of journalism a little bit and go in an area that I sensed was happening. So pay attention to your gut feel. 5 years before the TV to digital emergence, I approached my management at the TV station. I was anchoring 5, 6, and 10, I believe, and newscast and reporting. And I said, I want to come off of some of the night newscasts and focus more on where the direction is headed. And they said, well, what you got? I said, well, not a lot yet, but I really sense that we're going in another direction, and I know you have an internet team. Can I be a part of that? And they said, sure. So I have to give them credit for that, you know, for taking one of their main anchors off the 10 o'clock newscasts and giving me another role, you know, where I could be passionate about something in a new direction. And yeah, it's good job security for me as broadcasters were continuously being paid less and less and being laid off, particularly the higher paid ones. But that began the reinvention of myself for value-added broadcast industry. And so I became the head of the social media management. I did training for existing and a lot of the, you know, staid journalistic types didn't. I don't want a Facebook page. What do I don't need that, you know. But hi, how's it going?
We're fine now. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. It's okay. Thanks.
You can stay. And then I headed up the news website, which we had a real unique concept for our website. And I don't enjoy doing websites, which is why I don't offer it as part of my, you know, service base. But I do recommend, you know, other people for that for business purposes. But it was called Continuous News, and I mean, you know, the TMZ model. It was modeled after that, only more credible. So it just continuous news. So I just basically had to manage a staff to feed that news product and buy into the concept, which is not my concept. It's Terry Heaton's. He's a guru who really believed in the reinvention of media, and I'll show you something on him in just a second. So that's where I've been. This is where I am now. The business aspect of this transition and reinventing and so forth is actually, it relates to what I like to call, and I made this up myself and you'll know that when I tell you what it is, the Hurricane Ike Factor. I incorporated that as a broadcaster into my own philosophy, and I really think it's going to come around again for me in the business sense, and I hope it happens for you. And what it is, I'll tell you the story about that. In September of 2008, Hurricane Ike was bearing down on Louisiana and Texas, and we'd all experienced, not long before that, the devastation of Katrina and Rita, so we knew what was coming. When the forecast predicted to hit our area in the Arklatex area, the internet and news teams at the station were met by a challenge from management to act not only as news sources but as first responders. So that meant, I didn't know any broadcaster who acted as a first responder, so that meant inventing something, right? So 3 of us, Brad Poley, the web guy, Randy Bain, the news director, he's still the news director there, and me, wondered what would happen if we broadcast raw with a webcam at my cubicle dispensing information as it happened. So we just tried to do it. I mean, people do this all the time now. It's not a big deal, but we were the first to do it. So in this capacity, and it got a lot of national attention. Let me show you kind of how it happened. Let me see if I can pull this up. Hang on a second. Yes. Is that scrolling behind me? Yes. Oh, yay. Okay. So here we are. We bought a $15 webcam from Walmart. We got a fluorescent bulb for lighting, a soundboard, a couple of computer screens, one for internet, one for news access. And there we had a historical web chat. Because we met the needs of people, and this was an experiment. Nobody had done the thing where, okay, you've got the web chat going on, and you're broadcasting here. That's the director of the Red Cross, Michelle Davison. And I'm at my cubicle, and there's this webcam, and I stayed on for 14 hours straight. And dispensed information to people across the country. There were people who didn't know how other people were doing in Houston. They were up in, but nobody had electricity, mind you, in a big part of the country. So this is the only way they had information. So we had fire chiefs say, hey, I put them on. I mean, as the 14 hours went by, the equipment got more elaborate around me. To me, it took away a little bit of the rawness, but the company understandably wanted to monetize on it. So, that salespeople were out trying to sell ads on it, because they realized it was so popular. We had hundreds of people that this chat was rolling. I mean, so fast that I couldn't read and answer questions. So you know what that did? It took on a community of its own. It was the coolest thing. They became first responders for each other. There were people who didn't have electricity, who were on oxygen, and somebody else would jump in and go, okay, I'm coming right over, I've got a generator, and they just jumped in and helped each other. It was the coolest thing. So we did that, and a week later, some of you may be too young to remember Dan Rather. Do you remember Dan? Well, his people called me and they said, we want to do a story. This is so cool. So send us the video. And I said, well, we didn't shoot any. This is all we have. Because Terry Heaton shot that from his computer screen. So they ended up not doing a story. But I hope that it did. And they had some bugs to work out technologically about, what would download on your phone and so forth. But it was the start of something really, really cool. Let me see where I am. Let's see. Yeah, real good information. There was a guy in Houston who had a 9-month pregnant wife, and there were floods all around him, and he was asking questions. When's it coming in? Well, that's when we realized I needed a meteorologist in there too. So I'd either bring him in and sit him down and mic him up right there beside me in my cubicle. Or later, as we got more technologically advanced, as the hours went on, I'd patch into them at the weather center, and their broadcast would go up there on the chat. So I used radar, used a lot of things like that. And another cool thing is that I brought in, that's what's so genuine, authentic about it, and raw. I just brought people in off the streets who were out shooting flooding and wrecks and so forth, and trees down. They'd never been on camera in their lives. Sit down, tell me about it, you know? And people loved that. It was not rehearsed. But when we started trying to monetize it or repeat it, you know, with just severe weather or something like that, it didn't work. Because, and that's what I want to get across to you, and that's what I'm trying to grasp with a next opportunity for me in my business is you take the opportunity, you take a disaster, you take any circumstance, and instead of, oh, I gotta go, I'm gonna have to work extra hours, you know, figure out some way to be of service, to give back, to make a difference. And if you can do that, you've got something very satisfying and probably profitable. So, by the way, the owner of the KTBS said this is the best thing that had happened to the station in 30 years. But I sensed the changes in local broadcast news early on. I've acted on them, and I'm glad that I did. I'm glad I went with my gut on that. Now, with my business in social media marketing, other types of marketing, apps, and so forth that I try to help my clients with, I found that many small businesses can't afford to hire great big marketing firms to do everything. You know, there's so many things out there to do. So I try to help small businesses, and I do have a national and an international client, but I try to help primarily, I get a lot of satisfaction out of helping small businesses find where they need to spend their money without just, here, give me all your money, you know, I'll take a cut of it when I know you could go take out an ad or whatever, you know. I really, the consulting and getting to know the business is fascinating to me. I really like it. So I utilize social media management. I'm a professional photographer, so I utilize that as well in their branding. I specialize in restaurants and retail, and that just happened by accident. I came across the owner of Podna's is Sam Talkington. He owns all 6 in Shreveport-Bossier. He's a fascinating man. He used to work under Colonel Sanders. So whenever he has some kind of marketing guru come to town or whatever, he lets me come sit in on it. And all I do, I run his Facebook page, you know, I do his photography, his food photography. I have a portable studio that I take to the restaurants, and I do that. And he uses it on his digital menu boards, and we think of ways, we just brainstorm ways that he can reach clients. I suggested to him, I said, Sam, you need a food truck, and you need to go to this guy and get it wrapped, and you know, so he did, and he's real excited about getting it out there, you know, in the food truck scene, which has just now hit like the Shreveport-Bossier area pretty big. Let's see. I really believe in the golden rule for every business, which is putting yourself in your customer's place. You know, I'm not out there to make a buck. I want to be satisfied that they're going to be happy. And keep in mind, my main form of getting business is referrals. So I want them to have a good experience. And I might even recommend to a customer, I don't think you need me, you know? I think you need someone else. And some people say, oh, that's crazy. Well, no, why would I, like, say if they really need website help and that's all they need. I don't like to do that. You know, why would I, A, do something I don't want to do, and B, when I can be spending that time doing something I do want to do with a customer who really needs what I have to offer. So I still don't have the Hurricane Ike answer for all my clients, or really any of them. I'm just hoping that comes along, and I'm hoping I'll be aware enough to seize it. But I think the storm's brewing, and I really do hope that you seize whatever might come your way. I think a big key to success is adaptability, being able to reinvent yourself to fit the business situation. I've done that multiple times over the years, and I'll continue to change as time goes on. And social media is not everybody's core competency, and that's what I bring to the table. They're busy running their business, but they do want somebody they can trust with their brand. They want somebody who gets it. They want somebody who is going to adequately portray, in fact, even help them build that brand, which I'm doing with a couple of my clients right now. I said, you know, we're getting a lot of response from this way of doing this. What do you think about that becoming part of your brand? You know, so it's about the relationships I have with my clients. I just love them. I really do. I use humor a lot. I use photography, big visuals. I really believe the status quo is just not an option in the business world right now. You have to change. You have to be engaged. You have to have your client's best interests at heart. It seems like a simple formula, but it really is sometimes difficult to attain that. But if you'll stay focused on that, then I think you'll be happy. Keep thinking, keep changing, and keep doing what you love, and you will be successful. And does anybody have any questions?
Y'all have any questions? Now's your chance.
Is there anybody here who works at KNWD? No?
No one here from our
okay.
radio
Oh, I thought we'd get somebody.
No, I thought so. Well, thank you
Thank you all so much.